What if I told you I brought a high school dropout who was $500,000 in debt and had failed at 11 different businesses on my stage to speak to my audience at the Create Your Own Economy conference? You would probably say that's not a great idea, but that's where he was. That's not where he is right now. Where he is right now is he's founded multiple companies that have done over $100 million in sales. And right here, I want to show you a 10-minute clip of what he shared at the Create Your Own Economy conference. That's the greatest single mindset shift that you need to have in order to not only achieve in business, but reach and realize your ultimate potential. So here it is. Check it out.
But seriously, I dropped out of high school, and I told my parents, they're like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know. I think I'm going to play piano. And they said, that sounds good, but you don't play piano. I was 16. And I was like, yeah, I know. Can I have a piano? So they bought me a piano. So I said, okay. And I started practicing piano for like 12 hours a day. And I went to the faculty at the University of Houston. And they told me that, yes, it's biomechanically impossible for somebody to start playing the piano at 16 years old, especially a male, because we have with puberty, we get more muscularly rigid. And they're like, yeah, you're like your soft tissues, they're not going to adapt. You're never going to be able to develop the dexterity. You're too late. You missed the window. And I was like, cool, all right. I got to go practice. So I went home and I practiced like 12 hours a day. And it took 3 years. I auditioned every semester for 6 consecutive semesters. Eventually they were like, okay, we're not saying you're actually good enough, but we're saying you're persistent enough, and we're tired of seeing you at these auditions. So yeah, you can be admitted to the music school. I ended up getting a full ride as the first chair pianist in the jazz piano department at University of Houston, and never even paid for college. I dropped out of high school, and I still got a full ride to college because I got good enough at the piano, even though they told me I couldn't. Because when you get really good at stuff, they change the rules for you. Write that down. When you're really good at things, that's one of the ways you distort reality. You get good enough that you don't have to play by the same rules as most people. So then, yeah, I did that. I had this great career. I say great career. I mean, I wasn't like Billy Joel or anything, but I was able to work my way into this one agency where they would book me to play these private parties at the nicest homes in Houston. And I would play in the homes literally of billionaires. I actually got to know these guys because I'd go into their homes and they'd have like 10 or 20 dinner guests over. And then I'd come in and play piano, and it was like, I mean, it was literally like a much smaller room than this. Like it's almost hard not to get to know people, right? I would always ask these guys, I'd be like, listen, there's nobody around. Like, tell me the real deal. Like, how'd you get so successful, right? And he said, well, yeah, you know how Einstein says that the definition of insanity is do the same thing over and over and expect a different result? He's like, yeah, I never got that memo. So I just kept trying. And on my 18th try, I got it right. And that's why I'm a billionaire. So I took that lesson with me. I only had to fail 11 times before I finally got a business to work. And the whole time I was like, well, still ahead of Bob. And so anyway, my 11th failure was I tried to start these franchise restaurants, and it was like, somebody mentioned, or I guess it was Adam mentioned 2008, how the world crashed, this is the Great Resignation. That was the Great Recession. God, they're so euphemistic. Every time the world goes to crap, they say it's great. It's the great something. Like the great day to lose everything. And so anyway, Great Recession 2007, I had opened these franchise restaurants. And the reason that they had a Great Recession is because they would give broke jazz musicians hundreds of thousands of dollars in loans to open restaurants. So I basically caused the Great Recession, to be clear. And I was also a casualty of it. So I ended up $500,000 in debt, like Kevin mentioned. And I was like, oh, this is just like when they told me I couldn't play the piano, because everybody's like, get a job. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a recession. Nobody's hiring anyways. Plus, no, I won't get a job. And I went online and I bought a little course on affiliate marketing. And I had a pretty good track record teaching myself to do stuff at keyboards, right? And so now it was a computer keyboard. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. And long story short, it took about 18 months, and I paid off $495,000 in debt with affiliate marketing on the internet. So I'm like, all right. Thank you. And so then, that happened. And let me hyper accelerate the story, right? So then like 4 or 5 years later, Google changes their algorithms. All my funnels stop working. All my ad accounts get shut down. You're not allowed to do affiliate marketing anymore on the search engines. And my partners quit, and I'm like, oh crap. Well, okay, let me reinvent myself again. Okay, I'll take these skills and I'll go sell them to businesses. Businesses need leads. Businesses need funnels. Businesses need to know how to do this stuff. And I don't really know how to explain it, except that like whenever everybody would tell me it couldn't work or it was a bad idea or I just kind of developed this sense that like, that's really interesting perspective you're giving me about what you think would be possible for you, but I don't really see how it applies to me. Because that's all people ever tell you is what they think would be possible for themselves, right? And so I started an agency, and over the next 5.5 years, we signed up 11,000 small and medium-sized businesses in the United States and Canada. We made the Inc. 5000 twice. We did about between 30 and 35 million in gross sales, and I was the sole owner. I got like 25% of that. It was just like my money, And then I sold it because I got bored, because I think that humans are meant to be creative. And once it reached the point where all I was doing was just more of the same, I was like, oh, I want to create something, right? I'm a jazz musician. I want improvisation to play or something. So I got bored and I sold it for a couple $1 million. And then I got screwed on that deal and they stopped paying me. There's some guys in the room that know some of those people, so I'm just gonna keep it all discreet. But so I got screwed out of like $1 million, and I had like all these big plans. And I wasn't like gonna buy an island, like I wasn't that rich, but I was good. I was 39 years old, and I was like, okay, if this all plays out, I can basically chill, right? And then I got screwed, and then I'm like, okay. And then I asked myself, okay, so like, and let's face it, you're only gonna at most you might remember one thing I say, right? Like that's how these events are. So I'm gonna tell you the one thing. Like, don't even bother listening to anything else. This is just the one thing right here. Whenever anything happens in your life, train yourself to ask, what can be great about this? That's it. It's the key to life right there. What can be great about this? Single question. And so I got screwed on the deal, and I was like, what can be great about this? And I was like, well, I had this idea of like, because 10 years ago, I was a broke jazz musician who literally got evicted from his apartment, was $500,000 in debt, had arthritis in my wrist, couldn't even play gigs, was getting divorced, was 50 pounds overweight, was like just in every way, rock bottom, right? So I don't even like calling it rock bottom because I was so soft. It was like pudgy bottom. And I'm like, and yet that was 10 years ago. And now my like first world problem is that I just got screwed out of $1 million on an exit or something. Like 10 years ago, I would have died to have this problem, right? This is a great problem. And so I've had this idea, well, maybe I could like teach the world how a broke jazz musician, like there's this whole new economy, right? Like how I paid off $500,000 in 18 months with affiliate marketing, how I scaled an agency out of an office that I didn't go to for 2 years because I was home with my newborn baby and like other people ran it. And like, how did the high school dropout create the life that all the Harvard MBAs want, but don't have, right? I'm like, I should teach the world how I did this. So I started putting content out. And by the way, when somebody effectively takes $1 million out of your economy that you created, that lights a little fire under your butt, right? So I'm like, what can be great about this? Oh, I should lean in. I should do this idea that I've had. I'll start teaching the world some stuff about like what I've learned along my journey. And that was September 2018. And so like, here's the thing. When you don't live in reality, none of the rules apply. None of the standards apply. None of the norms apply. So there's like, let's be honest. Who starts to do something, and when they start to feel like they're out on the limb of, wait, this isn't normal. This isn't how most people do stuff. They start to get like a type of feeling, and they start to pull themselves back. Be honest. Okay. You're addicted to reality. But reality is a constraint. And that fear, that's your signal that you're finally getting free. You're finally stepping in. It's like landing in a foreign country and stepping off the plane and realizing, wait, like I don't speak the language, I don't wear the clothes, I don't know anyone, I'm scared. That fear is a signal that you've entered a new land. And the meaning that you attach to that land determines whether or not you stay frozen, keep going, go deeper, or retreat back to what you neurologically feel safe, right? So take it from the guy that has eschewed this pseudo-safe reality for decades now, to the point where he doesn't even remember what it's like, that fear that's actually the new safety. Risk is the new security. Risk tolerance is the new security, and I can prove it to you. Who's familiar with evolution? I think we're all familiar with evolution. Darwin. So in evolution, there's a thing called natural selection. And the reason that human beings don't have tails, and the reason that our, 1,000 years from now, or 10,000 years from now, whatever, we won't have appendices anymore. And the reason that many of us men are starting to go a little thin up here in the hair department, and 10,000 years from now, we'll all look like Jeff Bezos, is because natural selection gets rid of traits over time that serve no evolutionary purpose, right? So explain an adrenaline junkie to me. Explain a person that likes jumping out of airplanes. How has natural selection allowed this notion of the association of risk and pleasure to not only persist, but become more common in our society? How is it that natural selection has not eliminated the pleasurable experience of risk? There must be some emerging evolutionary advantage to tolerating and even enjoying the sensation of risk.
So what do you think? Pretty cool, right? It's incredible to see what Jeff has done in such a short amount of time and the incredible success he's had despite all the setbacks. My favorite part of the whole thing is when he says, I had tried 11 times and failed, but I knew I could go till 18 until I'd reached the number that the billionaire had failed as well. But down below in the comments, my invitation to you is I want you to write down, how can you go against reality, and how can you ultimately make the decision today to do something that might be scary, that others might think is crazy? What are you going to do after listening to this? Comment it below. I'm excited to read them and respond to you. Have a fantastic day. We'll catch you on the next video.
Man on a mission, I'ma get it. I be on a what? Yeah. I be on a